this morning. It may be on the slides and it may not. So a couple of years ago, I had a fortune cookie. We were at the family and I, the girls and Sherry and her family and children. We were at an Asian restaurant, opened my fortune cookie, and it said, "Love in its essence is spiritual fire." I loved that. Said, this in a fortune cookie. I just love it. So when I got home, of course, the first thing I did was to look it up and see who said that. It sounded familiar, but I couldn't put it all together. And it was said by a man named Seneca. He was a philosopher, a theologian. He lived in ancient Rome about the year 67 A.D. is about the time that he wrote those words. Quite forward thinking, wasn't he? And what he meant was that he may have been comparing the passion that comes from all types of love. And you know, in our language, we have one word for love. And there's so many different meanings to it that we could put to the word. Eros, of course, is erotic love. And we talk mostly here about agape. And I don't know how many of you know Michael Bernard Beckwith. He's a man that had his life transformed in the 80s. He had gotten in a little bit of trouble. He hung out with the wrong crowd. He did everything he could to get in trouble, smoked a little weed, this, that, or the other. So he had gone to court about that particular subject and was just praying that he could get out of it. He said that he was on his way home from court one day, and he kept feeling this magical, mystical, sort of spiritual feeling. He didn't know where it was coming from. He wanted nothing to do with the church that he had seen it as a child. He didn't want anything to do with that. He said that he'd seen a lot of people going to church, but it sure didn't say a thing about how they lived their lives. They go to church and spout all these great words, and out in the world, they sure didn't live it. He wanted nothing to do with that. But on the way home, he was walking down the road to his apartment, and he said, "Okay, God, if this stuff is real, see that weather vane up there? I would like for it to move and point directly at me." He said he hadn't even gotten the words out of his mouth or thought them totally when that weather vane, the arrow, pointed directly at him. And he knew then, without a shadow of a doubt, that Spirit, God, love was speaking through him. Now, he was a popular kind of jazzy black man, kind of looked like, I don't know, most of you won't remember Harry Belafonte, a really, really good looking, yeah, remember him? Suave and attractive, kind of that look. Dreadlocks, the whole thing. And all of a sudden, he says, "You want me to open a spiritual center? I've been the cool guy on the block. You got to be kidding me." But you know, that's the way it happens to you when God starts speaking to your heart and you start hearing it. And he knew what he was to teach about was love. So he got the training. He went through it's now called the Centers of Spiritual Living. Ernest Holmes founded that group. It was once called Religious Science. He did all the learning, jumped through all the hoops that he needed to, and opened a center. And guess what he called it? Agape. Agape. Now, this was in the 80s. Talk about another forward-thinking guy, huh? They are so huge in the Los Angeles area. I don't know how many members they have. I've never visited, but I would love to go and just be there sometime and meet him in person and see what he has done with that dream, that vision that God gave him about love. And agape, of course, it's universal love. It's the idea that there is a flow of life in the universe. You can call it whatever you want to. You can call it God, any other name that you want, as long as you know that this is a river, an ocean of love that's out there. There is an ocean of love out there that is available to each of us, to you and to me. We talk about that a lot of Sundays, don't we? We can go to that ocean of love, that river of love, and you know what? We can take a thimble, if that's all you feel like you deserve. You can take a tablespoon. Or you know what? You can take a bucket as big as you can find and allow that ocean of love to fill you, to fulfill you, to make you prosperous, kind, generous, uplifted, happy. All of those great things that we think about, that we want to have in our lives. It depends on you. You can fill your cup up. And I'll just say a word about how we finished this morning in our class. We were talking about relationships where there may be an addiction, and the one addicted person is pretty much destroying the family. And where does the parent or the one in charge, when do you finally decide that you have to allow the person to go their own way if they're going to destroy everyone else? And do you know what it takes to do that? It takes the wisdom of the heart's wisdom. In the last couple of centuries, we lived from the wisdom that came from the intellect. We thought that was the way to go, and it was. Look at all the inventions that came through. My goodness, how many things have been invented in the last 2 centuries, and they're wonderful. But what we're talking about right now is a heart-centered consciousness. And it's not the consciousness you're going to find from your mind alone, okay? What I'm talking about today, you're not going to just find it from reading. You're not just going to find it from your mind and thinking. You're going to find it from the wisdom that comes right here from the heart. And that's what the one that we know as Jesus came to tell us. He lived love, and that's what his life was all about, was love. What can we do to be examples of that love right here on this earth? So back to those problems, those challenges that we see, they're not easy, are they? They are not easy. And we know a lot of people, and you maybe even have some right directly in your family that need to be solved. And what we can pray for at that time is God, give me the wisdom. Give me the wisdom to know what to do with this situation. And the faith. Help me to see. Help me to know what is mine to do. But the truth is, if you're allowing a circumstance to destroy you, that's not love either, is it? Because you were sent from the Creator to bring your specific gifts to the world. And if you're allowing other people's problems to drain you continually, you can't be the person you were meant to be. We've spoken about this so many times here. Love is the passion, the feeling that comes from the heart that ignites you toward your goal. Ignites you. You've got to have something that ignites something, don't you? Even if you're baking a loaf of bread, what do? You get all the ingredients, don't you? Get all the ingredients together. Okay, so you're going to get some flour. You're going to get some oil, maybe a little pinch of salt, maybe a little pinch of sugar, and you're going to maybe get some liquid, whatever that's going to be, and then you mix it all up, don't you? And it just sits there in that bowl, not doing a thing. You say, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this bread? What in the world's wrong with this recipe? Let me look at that again. What did I miss? Well, the thing you missed is the primary ingredient. And that was the thing that was going to ignite it and make it grow and make it go out into the world and be passionate. Instead of a dud and falling over, you want this bread to be light. You forgot the yeast, didn't you? If you don't put the yeast in it and then give it the time to rise, that's important too. Giving the batter the time to rise. The stillness and the stillness and the stillness. Allow it. Allow it to become. Allow it to percolate. And let's translate that into your prayers like we were praying for a few minutes ago for all the people in the world to have peace and understanding and to heal from whatever it is that they need healing. In your meditative time, in your prayer time, in your quiet, you go into your heart center right here. Once you've ignited that heart center, and you can feel it, I guarantee you can feel it glowing. Send your prayers from there. Send your prayers from there. I guarantee results. There's something mystical and magical about this heart-centered prayer consciousness that we have. Now you say that just plain doesn't work for me. I can't do it. I've tried it. It doesn't work. Let me ask you this. Do you have any blockages to that love? Are there any blockages in there? You got any fear? How about worry? How about a little hesitation? Anxiety? And here's the big one. Refusal to forgive. Is there a circumstance or a person in your life you have not forgiven? That will keep a blockage on your heart sooner than anything else. Unforgiveness. Maybe you think you don't even have any resentment anymore. Look at it closely and see if you do, because that will block your heart off. That will block your heart. And then another thing that'll hold you back, this is another blockage that we need to look at sometimes, is to, especially toward building prosperity in our lives, is if we aren't grateful for what we already have. Are you grateful for what you already have? Be grateful for that. Every single thing. It will bring more good into your life. And then when you're praying for prosperity, this or something better, God. I know you have a better vision for me. I let that go. I'm going to allow divine wisdom and discernment and vision to come in right here, right now, into my life. I see it coming. I see the flow right now. I'm going to that ocean, that river of love. I'm going to take a huge bucket that'll hold 2 gallons. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to let it keep running toward me and all those I love. I'm not going to take a thimble. I deserve more. Do you think you don't deserve more? You don't deserve good in life? Maybe you haven't forgiven yourself for something you did. That'll hold you back too. You're thinking you don't deserve the good that you dream of. You know, with everything in life, there's got to be a little bit of a spark, doesn't it? That can ignite it. Our passions, our joy, that passion that comes from the heart, that heart center, that passion, that's the fuel. That's the fuel that will ignite your prayers, your dreams, your visionings. That's the fuel. Love is the passion, the feeling that comes from the heart, ignites you toward your goal. We've all experienced love of different types. I've told you about the story from the book, The Tribe, when a man was hitchhiking across the country. And he was just a young man. He went, his parents didn't want him to go. He wanted to see a little bit of life. He was going from the East Coast to California. And he stopped along the way in a little place in Wyoming. Hardly anybody there. And he had stopped and saw there was nothing there, so he was up at the road getting ready to hitchhike. And he saw an old miner coming up his way, and the man had a lunch bucket. He had a metal lunch bucket. And he thought, oh no, you know what he's thinking? Oh no, he's come to ask me for something. He wants whatever I have. And he had some food in his backpack, but it wasn't really enough to share. It was enough to get him to the next town or whatever he was going to do. But the old miner walks up to him in old dirty clothes. He says, where are you headed? Well, the young man was a little hesitant. He didn't know whether to tell him or not because, you know, he wants something from me maybe. California, he says. You headed to California? You got any food in that backpack? He's still thinking, oh no, he's going to want me to give it to him. He says, well, little cheese. The old man says, you can't go to California on a little cheese. You're going to California with a little dab of cheese. Here, take my lunch. He says, I live in my car, and I work at the coal mines. I walk 3 miles every morning to see if they have any fill-in work for me to do. And that's how he made the money to live, living in his car. He said, they didn't have any work for me today. I want you to take my lunch. So he opens his lunch box, and he takes out a sandwich and a piece of fruit, and he gives it to the young man. This man had nothing. He's living in a car. Didn't have to do anything. He looks up there at the end of the road, sees a young man hitchhiking to California. He's worried about him. What was that he felt in his heart? It was love, wasn't it? It was love for another person. Just like the Master told us, love one another. That's all you need to do. That's my one commandment to you. We don't need to go around spouting anything else. That one will do it. The young man in the book Tribe, he says, I've thought about that man the rest of my life. And what a difference he meant to me. So what would love do now may be one of the greatest questions we could ask ourselves. What would love do now? Whatever situation you come to, and sometimes it's not easy, I guarantee you, because I get plenty of those here too. What would love do now? And you take that. If you've got a question that comes up, take that into meditation, go into prayer with it, go into your heart center right here. I've told you how to do that. Come down through allow your focus to go to your heart. Allow that to ignite right there, your heart center. Go into your heart. I'm going to make that decision from my heart, not from my head, because that's not going to give me the right answer here. I'm just going to keep coming up with the what ifs and all the other stuff that's coming out from just using the mind consciousness. I'm going to go into heart consciousness, and I'm going to make that decision based on that. What would love do now? What would love have me do? Sometimes it's a kind word. Sometimes it's a hand up instead of what the ego would say to, well, I'm going to give that person a piece of my mind. That's what the ego's going to tell you. And the heart's going to tell you, I'm going to give that person a piece of my heart. And if a bologna sandwich goes with that, so much the better. So much the better. I'm going to give that person a piece of my heart. I'm going to love them. I'm going to see them as Jesus would see them. I ran into another really lovely poem, and maybe I'll speak about it next week. It's just so lovely. It's from the poet Rumi. The body is like Mary. The body is like Mary, and each of us has a Christ within. We're ready to give birth to that. Whatever that gift is that God has given you, is it a kind word to another? Maybe you're a musician. Maybe you're an artist. Maybe you're a woman ready to go in physical labor with your new baby. Maybe you're just sitting in your chair praying for another. And I won't say that lightly. Maybe you're sitting, just to it. Maybe you're sitting in your prayer, praying for another, praying for love, praying for their well-being. Maybe you're being gentle and kind every chance you get, instead of the ego puffing you up. I think I'll choose kindness today. I think I'll choose love. How about you? Thank you for your time.